The ocean has no memory, yet it remembers how to swallow the light. At the edge of the world, where steel-cold currents drag across jagged reefs, shadows move like breathing continents. They do not belong to this age, and they are awakening. Night storms pounded Skull Island like the war drums of nature. Thunder ripped open the sky, casting light upon a colossal silhouette standing firm amidst the rainforest. Kong, his coarse gray-black fur was soaked with rain. Droplets running down the scar slashed across his chest like the carved script of an oath. Kong's amber eyes fixed on the sea where storms were not just storms, and waves not just waves. Far off, the lone, golden glow of a fishing boat flickered like a firefly at the edge of an abyss. The old fisherman heard a deep resonance, not thunder. A heartbeat, the heartbeat of the earth itself. Then the whole shuddered not, from the wind but from something vast gliding below. So immense the ocean seemed to inhale and exhale with its passing. That night, beneath torn clouds, Kong stepped out onto the cliff's edge. The sea wind whipped his natural cloak, his rain-soaked fur. His heavy, warm breath scattered the drizzle into a fine mist around his massive chest. He struck his chest war drums, echoing into the sea, and the ocean replied with a towering wave, shattering like 1,000 glass blades. The elders of the island would say, "When the sea sighs, the mountain answers," but tonight the sea was gasping. Seabirds fled from the horizon back to the island, their cries shrill like morning bells. From the depths, a column of white foam erupted, higher than the oldest trees of Skull Island. A shape shifted beneath long, slender like a steel ribbon, its scales darker than midnight. No one could see its true form, only the ocean's color changing from deep blue to pitch black as if ink had spilled from a tear in the world. Kong roared. Not a challenge, but a warning, a deep-drawn sound that rattled the ribs of the forest. Small creatures fell silent. Even the waves seemed to choke upon the shore. The answer came, a roar from the abyss. Not sound, but sensation slipping through the cracks of stone, reverberating in the listener's chest, stealing a heartbeat. The thing had heard Kong, and it replied. The next day the storm had passed, but the sea remained mournful. Broken ships washed ashore like the ribcages of wooden whales. Survivors spoke with hollow eyes. Darkness beneath the water had moved. Whirlpools formed around their hulls like arms wrapping victims gentle, yet never letting go. Kong stood upon the headland, eyes fixed on the horizon. He had fought winged serpents, colossal lizards, creatures born of fire and ash. But the darkness of the sea was a different riddle. It had no shape to strike, no face to remember, only traces, twin waves rolling together. Bubbling trails like the footprints of something unseen. In the forest, leaves fell like rain. Within Kong's chest, an ancient flame burned brighter. The instinct of a guardian. He did not protect the island as territory. He protected the balance, the fragile thread binding sky, earth, and sea. If the abyssal shadow crossed the shore, the forest would fall silent, beasts would abandon the land, and stone would become nameless graves. Sunset painted the waters gold, then quickly faded to indigo. Kong stepped down onto the beach, each step carving deep pools into the sand. He crouched, pressing his fist into the tide. The water was ice cold, yet within the chill was a rhythm, a pulse, like a summons. From afar, a band of waves curled into an arc, glinting silver like the scales of a giant fish. The sea split open. Kong rose tall, amber eyes narrowing. He did not retreat. He waited. For where the light drowned, the shadow of the deep had just opened its eyes. Night fell upon Skull Island, but not with its usual calm. The jungle creatures that once lingered near the river had fled, leaving behind a silence so heavy it was terrifying. The chirping of crickets, the calls of birds, even the rustle of leaves in the wind all vanished, as if the forest itself held its breath. Kong moved toward the forest's edge, each massive step shaking the earth. His keen ears caught what no human could. Faint vibrations echoing from the deep sea. They were like ancient drums, but distorted, muffled, resonating through stone. On the shoreline, jagged pillars of rock jutted skyward like broken teeth. Waves struck them in steady rhythm, yet among the familiar crashes were movements that belonged not to the wind. The water spun against itself, forming perfect circles, one after another, as though a colossal hand stirred from beneath the depths. That night, the moon was veiled in black clouds, leaving only thin slivers of silver light. Kong stood tall, amber eyes piercing through the thin veil of rain. He knew what stirred below was not merely a creature. It was a reminder that the deep, still-guarded secrets never meant to rise. Suddenly, the sea swelled. A massive shadow glided beneath the waves, long serpentine, moving like a ribbon of steel drifting by. The water churned, dragging sand and stone in its wake. A metallic resonance rang out, not from men, but from scales grinding against each other, the sound of something born before the earth had settled. Kong roared, his voice tearing through the night, rolling like living thunder. The jungle quaked. The ocean answered with a wall of water, crashing hard against the cliffs. And then it revealed itself. From the surface rose a colossal head, covered in dark scales, shimmering with phosphorescent blue. Its eyes were bottomless pits, glowing faintly like fires from the abyss. Its maw gaped open, rows of spear-like teeth arranged in a circle. And the sound it released was not a roar, but the shriek of a storm. Kong charged, each step pounding like a war drum, fists like iron hammers striking down upon the water. The sea exploded upward, spraying brine high into the forest canopy. The creature twisted, its massive tail whipping into the shore, hurling boulders aside as if they were pebbles. This first encounter was not for victory. It was a greeting, but a greeting written in violence between two beings who understood. One day, only one would remain standing. The moon broke free of the clouds, casting its silver light. Kong stood, chest heaving, shoulders rising with each breath. The beast retreated into the deep, leaving behind a vast whirlpool like a gateway into another world. But before it vanished, those glowing eyes fixed on Kong, not with fear, but with challenge. From that moment, Skull Island was no longer only Kong's domain. It had become the front line of a war rising from the darkness of the ocean. The sea seemed to quiet after the first encounter, but it was only a fleeting silence before the true storm. In the days that followed, the shores of Skull Island grew strange. Dead fish washed up in pale heaps, their bodies slashed with long cuts as if dragged across a colossal blade. Even whales, rarely seen near the island, were torn apart, their carcasses drifting among the waves. The stench of blood rose thick in the air, turning the sky heavy with death. The islanders began whispering of strange happenings, drumbeats echoing from the ocean floor, undercurrents that shifted direction without warning, and sometimes on still nights. The entire island trembling as if it lay upon the back of a giant beast. Kang sensed it more clearly than anyone. From the cliff's edge, he watched the horizon. His amber eyes flashed as he caught sight of distant geysers erupting from the sea like the breath of a monster. He understood. This creature was not merely passing through. It was preparing. The jungle, too, was changing. Herds of animals migrated inland. Flocks of birds took flight in massive numbers, fleeing the island. Along the coastline, ancient trees were torn from their roots, as if invisible hands had dragged them into the depths. The balance Kong had long preserved was faltering. Left unchecked, the darkness of the sea would swallow the island and then spread far beyond. In an ancient cavern, the walls bore carvings from ages past. Titans rising from the abyss, clashing with a giant shaped like an ape. The ancestors had recorded in blood and stone that this was not the first time. Kong growled deep in his throat, not in anger, but in solemn vow. Night fell. Kang sat in silence upon the sand. Waves licked at his massive feet. The sea wind howled against his scarred chest. In his amber eyes there was no longer only vigilance, there was resolve. He knew he could wait no longer. If the creature rose to its full power, the price would not only be Skull Island, but distant lands where humankind still lived. Kong did not fight for dominance. He fought to protect the balance for the world itself, even for those who had never heard his name. A drumbeat thundered within his chest. Kong rose, his colossal shadow engulfing the beach. His roar tore through the night like thunder, long and resonant, echoing back from the waters. The ocean stilled for a heartbeat, then answered with a towering column of water reaching into the sky. The battle was no longer something that could be avoided. Kong had chosen. He would descend into the darkness of the deep, where his enemy awaited. That night, the sky was smothered in clouds, leaving only the roar of the sea wind, like the cries of lost souls. Kong stepped onto the beach, his colossal feet sinking deep into pools of black water. He no longer waited for his enemy to surface on the shore. Now, he would enter the dominion of darkness itself. The tide rose to his knees, then his waist. Kong drew in a massive breath, the sound like mountains collapsing. Then he plunged forward, shattering the ocean's surface into an explosion of towering waves. Beneath the sea, the moonlight vanished at once. Only thick blue-black darkness remained, with streams of white bubbles swirling around Kong's massive frame. Each sweep of his arms churned whirlpools that dragged sand and kelp into violent spirals. His heart pounded faster not from fear, but from the instinct of a warrior bracing for a battle without end. And then it came. From the abyss, two phosphorescent eyes appeared, glowing like ghostly lanterns. The immense shadow circled Kong, swift as a maelstrom. Suddenly, its tail lashed out, striking his flank with brutal force, spinning him through a column of foam. Kong roared beneath the water, the sound muffled but still echoing like thunder in the deep. He countered. Muscular arms lashed out, seizing the scaly, iron-hard body. Kong squeezed tight, sparks of pale blue light flickering where the scales scraped against his skin, like fire rising from the abyss. But the creature twisted, its circular maw snapping down hard onto Kong's arm. Blood spread red, dissolving into the ocean. The pain ignited like fire in his chest. Kong strained, then drove his other fist into the monster's head. The impact reverberated through the seabed, stunning the schools of smaller fish nearby, their lifeless bodies drifting with the currents. The two giants wrestled, spiraling deeper into the abyss. Every clash tore the water apart, sending undercurrents surging upward, striking the surface as storms that battered Skull Island. Trees toppled, rocks shattered, and the island's people trembled as the roars of titans thundered from beneath the waves. Kang unleashed a blow like the hammer of the gods, slamming the beast down into the seabed. But from the darkness, its maw opened, spewing a thick black liquid like ink, smothering the waters in suffocating gloom. Kong could see nothing, only the freezing, crushing dark encasing him. In that suffocating moment, Kong realized this was not merely a contest of strength. It was a war of wills between the ruler of the land and the master of the sea. He did not yield. In the shadows, Kong clenched his fist, preparing to strike. His amber eyes flared like the last surviving flame, defying the endless abyss. Darkness, thick as tar, engulfed Kong, his breath caught. The only light the blaze of his amber eyes to torches burning in the depths. The creature slithered unseen through the black ink, circling like a living whirlpool, each spiral pressing down with crushing force upon Kong's chest. But Kong was not one to yield. He closed his eyes, listening with his very bones. The vibrations in the water, the flick of fins, the tiny ripples brushing his skin, all were signs. Then, in a heartbeat, Kong's eyes snapped open. He surged toward the sound. His colossal hands clamped down on the phosphorescent scaled head, and Kong's roar burst forth, frothing the sea into a pillar of white bubbles. He crushed hard, then drove his forehead forward like a thunderclap, staggering the beast. But the creature did not relent. It thrashed violently, tail lashing against Kong's chest, hurling him into a jagged reef wall. Stone exploded, coral pillars shattered like matchsticks. Kong bled, yet his grip only tightened, clinging to the shadowed body with unbreakable resolve. The battle spiraled deeper. The weight of the ocean bore down, splitting flesh, but Kong endured. Then the monster's body began to glow faintly, streaks of eerie blue light radiating from its core, illuminating the abyss. The truth revealed itself. The beast carried within it an ancient energy, the phosphorescent power of the Titan Age. Kong seized the moment. He hauled the monster downward, smashing its head against the seabed. The impact thundered like an undersea earthquake, its shockwaves rattling Skull Island above, shaking the forest to its roots. The beast shrieked, vomiting another cloud of thick black ink. But this time, Kang was ready. He slammed his fist against his chest, the drumbeat resonating through the waters, scattering the darkness. His amber eyes burned brighter, fixed and unwavering. In the chaos, Kong heaved the creature upward, breaching the surface. The ocean erupted into waterfalls, moonlight pouring down on two giants locked in savage struggle. Waves rose like walls, battering Skull Island with the force of hammers. Amidst the raging sea, Kong roared not just to challenge his foe, but to declare he would not retreat. That night, ocean and sky merged into one battlefield, forged four titans, and then the unthinkable. As the moon tore free from the clouds, Kong glimpsed shadows stirring behind his enemy. Not one, not two, but an entire swarm, writhing endlessly. Serpentine forms like a forest of spears rising from the deep. Kong's enemy was not alone. Moonlight pierced the waves, and Kang realized the massive shadow he had fought was only the vanguard. Beneath the sea, dozens of serpentine bodies writhed, glowing with a ghostly blue phosphorescence, rising like a forest of colossal sea serpents. Dozens of cold, unblinking eyes opened all at once, fixed upon Kang. The ocean had become a battlefield swarming with ancient life. Every lash of their bodies churned the waters into chaos, waves surging into walls as tall as mountains. Skull Island shuddered. Forests toppled in cascades. The coastline split open, as though the island itself was about to be swallowed whole. Kong roared, but this time the sound was not merely a challenge. It was a call to war. He stamped the sea, sending water erupting into pillars. His amber eyes blazed, unwavering against the endless swarm. The creatures attacked. A tail lashed out like an iron whip. Kong caught it with a mighty arm, staggering but unfallen. Another lunged from the flank, circular maw gaping wide to seize his shoulder. Kong pivoted, seized its upper jaw, tore it free, and hurled it into its kin. The sea exploded with spray, flashes of blue light bursting beneath the waves, but the horde was too many. They coiled around his legs, bit into his arms, constricted his chest like living chains. The pressure of the deep, combined with their strength, pressed him downward, his vision blurring into suffocating blackness. In that moment, when escape seemed impossible, Kong's memory flared. He saw the carvings etched into the cavern walls by his ancestors. Titanic warriors standing against swarms of sea demons, protecting the balance between land and ocean. Kong understood. This was his blood-bound destiny. This was not merely his battle, it was a legacy. He roared. Long and thunderous, the sound ripping through the waters and echoing all the way to the skies. The cry was so powerful, the horde faltered, their coils loosening in hesitation. Kong's amber eyes blazed, and with one surge of will, he tore apart the chains of flesh binding him. And in the chaos, something more dreadful revealed itself. Amidst the horde, a shape far larger than the rest still slumbered in the abyss. It had not yet stirred, but with every breath, the surface quaked as though the earth's veins themselves were rising. Kang froze. The monsters he had fought until now, all of them, were merely offspring, and the true sovereign of the ocean's darkness had yet to awaken. The deep sea roared like 1,000 storms merged into one. The horde of sea beasts swarmed around Kang, his body bloodied, his breath heavy. Each coil, each crushing grip was a chain dragging him down into the black abyss. Yet his amber eyes still blazed, resolute like the last flame on a frozen battlefield. Summoning every ounce of strength, Kong wrenched himself free, tearing the swarm apart. He seized one beast and slammed it against the reef, its luminous scales shattering, its glow fading like a star snuffed out. But for every creature that fell, 2 more rose from the darkness. The waves howled above, Skull Island's forests quaked, the very heavens and earth seemed to join the fury. And then the sea cracked open. From the abyss below, a shadow greater than all the rest stirred. The waters churned into a vortex as the leader of the horde emerged. It rose, its body long as a mountain range, scales dark with a burning crimson sheen. Each coil shook the sea like an earthquake. Its colossal eyes blazed, not the ghostly blue of its brood, but molten red, glowing like magma and casting firelight across the night sky. Its massive head lifted, circular jaws layered with rings of teeth, and it unleashed a roar deeper than the abyss itself. This was the Abyssal Overlord slumbering for millennia, now awakened to rule the waters once again. The brood shrieked in chorus, a dreadful chant, circling Kang as if in a sacrificial rite. Kang, though weary and battered, did not retreat. He struck his chest, the thunderous drumbeat echoing through the seas, a challenge hurled into the abyss. The Abyssal Overlord surged forward, its body a living tempest. Kong raised his arms to meet it, but the sheer weight hurled him down into the seabed, shattering stone, clouding the waters with debris. The entire ocean trembled with the collision. In a moment that seemed like despair, Kong rose again, eyes blazing with fierce resolve. This was no longer a fight for survival. It was a war to protect the balance, to ensure Skull Island and the world beyond would not be devoured by darkness. Kong roared once more, his cry booming across sea and sky. The Abyssal Overlord answered, jaws aglow with red fire ready to swallow him whole. Two titans, one of the land, one of the sea, prepared to clash in a battle of destiny. Sky and sea merged into a single chaotic symphony. Kong and the Abyssal Overlord clashed, two engines of destruction born of nature. Every collision sent tsunamis surging skyward, cracked the mountains of Skull Island, and made the world itself tremble at the sight of such primal power. The Leviathan struck with its colossal tail, smashing Kong down into the seabed. Blood spread red through the waters, but Kong did not fall. The last of his strength, he clung to the immense body, climbing along its scales that glowed like heated steel. With a fist like a thunderbolt, he struck the monster's head. The impact echoed like lightning in the ocean's heart. The Abyssal Overlord shrieked, its brood thrown into chaos. The titanic body convulsed, then collapsed into the abyss, dragging whirlpools behind it like black holes swallowing all. The ocean shook, then slowly fell silent, as though exhaling after a nightmare. Kong rose from the water, his body torn and scarred, his breath heavy like distant thunder. Moonlight fell upon him, reflecting in amber eyes, weary yet proud. On the shore, Skull Island still stood, its forests trembling but unbroken. Kang stepped onto the sand. Each footfall left deep impressions, testaments to the battle just endured. He raised his face to the sky not to claim glory, but to remind himself. This battle was not for honor, it was for balance. The elders of the island would tell the tale to their children. Of the night the ocean rose to devour the world, and of the titan who stood alone to stop it. Kong turned away, vanishing slowly into the shadowed forest. His heavy footsteps faded into silence. Only his deep, steady breath remained, carried by the wind. Bearing an ancient vow, so long as darkness endures, Kong will stand against it. Not as a conqueror, not as a god, but as an eternal guardian. And on the cliff's edge, as the first light of dawn broke, Kong's colossal shadow stretched across the sea, undeniable, everlasting. Kong's legacy was not in victory. Kong's legacy was the survival of the world itself.